This one's for he never returned as a horse. Check, check, check. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Just thought you'd like that. Saw your comment earlier. So hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, let's see. We have we've got a number of favorites here today. So we have Basilget, welcome. Welcome, good to see you. He never returned as a horse. We've got Zahar, welcome. Always good to see you. And we've got Sergeant Grinch and a few others who haven't commented yet. So hello everyone, and thank you for being here. I trust my audio is functioning. Hey, Villainous has just arrived. Marek as well, Daduza, Carol B, Rick, Soldier of God, welcome. So yeah, good to see all of you. Thank you for being here this evening. And yeah, I was testing some software earlier, like that, so I can finally pop up the comments into OBS. So that really helps. So I can grab these comments. So yeah, guys, I'm assuming you can hear me. So tonight we are talking about secular humanism. I nearly entitled the series Schmuckular Humanism because really it's for schmucks. Quite honestly, it's really just for schmucks. But yes, it is really a religion for the irreligious. It's a religion for atheists. It mimics, it copies from Christianity, but denies all of the divine. Yes, Tim, more welcome. Yeah, I should have called it Schmuckular Humanism. I originally actually did call it Schmuckular Humanism. So, welcome back to your channel. Yes, Zahan, welcome. Good to see you. Dobry wieczór, Marek. All right, so let me see. Let me just disable that comment that I have there. I see that, though I'm going to have to refresh. Yeah, the comments don't necessarily refresh on the own. That's the only issue. So yeah, I was just testing the software. It may or may not work correctly. Okay, so let's jump over to screen 2. So before I go, I just want to mention something I've been working on recently. Could use a little more volume. Does that help with the volume? I've just brought the mic much closer. Hopefully that helps us with the volume. Okay, hopefully that didn't create a lot of noise. All right, testing, 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay, so I posted a few shorts on the origin of the word Tawheed. So everyone's familiar with the Islamic concept of Tawheed. Let me just do this here. Tawheed or Tawheed. Yawheed, good grief. So Genesis, welcome. Harry, welcome. Hey there, good to see you. Yeah, so Tawheed is the concept of the monad, effectively. It's Allah is one. However, this word actually derives from the Ethiopic, a much older language from the Ge'ez than Arabic. And it's one of the languages which obviously Arabic derived from. Took many words from, took sounds from, because all of the sounds that are common in Arabic are common in the Ge'ez. Now, we'll see here from the Smithsonian Institute document here. So Ethiopian, the oldest language, by John P. Harrington of the Smithsonian. He mentions Ethiopian is the oldest language in that it has departed the least in its forms from the original Proto-Semitic. So obviously there's a Proto-Semitic, and this is the closest to that of the languages, right? So let's have a look here. If we go across here, they mention that Ethiopians started with the same alphabet as the Hebrews. However, they added their own system, which got rid of the very awkward, what they call the cluttering dots of Hebrew and Arabic. So they have a much cleaner script, right? So Ethiopia is the oldest Christian country, and Ethiopians were a thoroughly Christian country under a heavy priesthood at the time when Italy was persecuting Christians under the Roman emperors. The Ethiopian literature is from the earliest times rich, consisting of Bible translations, prayer books, and liturgies. And they took their Bible in the 3rd, 4th century, they took their Bible into Arabia because they conquered Arabia, right? I'll be very quick with this. I just want to touch on this idea. Notice here's a number of Arabic words. What's the difference between Ge'ez and Amharic? Amharic is a much later language. Ge'ez is no longer a spoken language. It's kind of like when Hebrew was the liturgical language of the Jews. It was no longer a spoken script, was written. So Ge'ez is really written, not really spoken, but it's like technically the liturgical language. It's like Latin. Think of it as Latin today in the Catholic Church. So it's not spoken, but it's still in use. Notice the word kitab. The word kitab also comes from Ethiopia, right? From the Ge'ez, kitab, book. Salam, okay? Mihram, right? Muslims use the same word, the mihram, right? Minbar, right? They also have shaitan. So there's a number of words. There's more than 200 or approximately 200 Ethiopic words in the Quran. Remember, the Quran has over 2,000 foreign words, something like 54, 55 foreign languages. Lloyd, I've broken the Islam. Please give me your email address. Please go to my About page using a YouTube, using a browser. Go to my YouTube page, click on About. You'll find... Now, I know there's the statement that Armenia is the first country, but this country as well was Ethiopia seems to have gone Christian from the 2nd century already. So, yeah. So, anywho, on that point, we can debate all of that later. Okay, so you've got all of these words. So understand Ethiopia, its Christian leanings go back a long time. Even the word Beit, right? That's an Arabic word. Beit Christian, church, the house of the Christians, right? The house of the Christians. And even the word wine, the wine of the sacrament. So the reason I bring you this is because I wanted to bring up the origin of the word Tawheed. This seemed to have upset a few people that just said things like saying, oh, you're a poopy head. I'm just showing what I have found within, references. Notice the word Tawheed. So, awada, unite, one thing to another. To unite one thing to another. To join multiple things. To make one. Right? To add in counting. So to add things together. Tawahadda, right? To be united, to become one. To be united with each other. To be one by being united. To unite. Notice though, you have wahid. So also this has the Arabic word wahid, single, right? Allah is not wahid. Allah is ahad, one of. Tawheed, yeah. Wahid is the feminine, which means to be unique, only one. But Allah is not wahid in the Quran, right? Oneness, unity, union. All of these words, the context is all to be joined as one from a unity, from a union. Right, we continue on to the second page, pages 609 and 610 in this particular reference. There's a community post on my page you can check. Notice, to be alone, to be unique. Wahid, alone, single. Right? So you can see there's a difference between the Tawheed and the Wahid, because the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is called the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, which means to unify, to be unified, unification, to become one. And of course, Muhammad's people, the very first hijrah, they went for safety to Ethiopia and were there for about 15 years. And then they returned. So understand, they borrowed a great deal from the Ethiopian civilization and language. So Hebrew, Yahad, to become united. Notice here, Hebrew, Yahad, become united. And to be joined, Ethiopic, Amharic, Tawahada, to become united, from the Ge'ez, to mix or to combine. So understand, you've got this overwhelming meaning of the Tawheed was originally meaning to join multiple things. This is to join the Trinity. So basically, they borrowed this term, the Tawheed, and of course, as someone mentioned, they swerved into the truth by accident, and of course, just never even bothered to pick it up. So, Philip and the eunuch, yes, Ethiopia has been Christian for like forever. Yeah. So know your history before you troll the content creator. Yes, thank you, Timur. Anyway, okay. So yeah, so I brought that up, and then next. So this is on my. So I've mentioned, of course, the term, the origin of the word Tawheed from the Ge'ez, right? Then I wanted to mention something else. This is an article which I have posted a short on, and if you check the description for the link to this article, but it's the graves of Allah's prophets in Masjid al-Haram. So there are graves of several prophets inside the Masjid al-Haram. That's the Kaaba, right? Muhammad tells us there are 300 prophets, and what is between the Yemeni corn and the black stone are the grave of 70 prophets. All right? Many prophets, when rejected by their own people, ended up in Mecca, prayed at the Kaaba until they died. He then repeats what is between the Maqam and the Yemeni corner, to the well of Zamzam, to the black stone of the grave of 99 or 77 prophets, who came making pilgrimage and died and were buried there. And then, of course, there have been prophets, when their ummah were destroyed, they came to Mecca. And there they died. So their graves are found between Zamzam and Hajar. And there's loads of these references, as you can see. Loads of these references. Ishmael's grave is there. Adam is there. Abraham is there. So there's Noah is there. Okay? So they're telling us there's a whole bunch of these prophets there, and so the grave of Noah, see? So, and what we have though, our question to the Wahhabis, these people ask us, what is your ruling concerning performing namaz in Masjid al-Haram? Is it not grave worshipping according to your corrupt Aqidah? Because according to the instructions of Muhammad, you're not allowed to pray towards graves. You're not allowed to pray at graves, right? But Allah also says you must pray towards the Kaaba, but the Kaaba is a gravesite, for the simple reason that they say here. So there are numerous narrations proving the existence of graves of Allah's prophets and others in Masjid al-Haram. The Fatwa Committee of Saudi Arabia says, concerning the fact that Hajjar or the prophets are buried in Masjid al-Haram, we do not know any evidence that proves this. Now this is really weird. So now you've got, so are we now to assume, now notice, this here is the Hatim, okay? Ismail's supposed to be buried here with his mother, with Hagar. This is within 3 meters of the Kaaba. Is there any evidence? Is there any? Noah's skeleton is 90 feet. He's 36 meters tall. So yeah, I would just love to see some evidence of this. I just thought I'd raise that. I might do a little show on that later. So yeah, let me go back to my presentation. I see I lost my place, so let me get back to that. Okay, I hope you guys like today's desktop image. Is that why the royal family is concreting the entire city? Of course. I mean, there is no evidence of anything happening in Mecca. Nothing. So Noah was in the... It's all nonsense, of course. Concerning the fact, cannot prove it. Science and... Of course, Islam, the science. Okay, so yeah, enough waffle. I don't know how long... Oh, good grief. 13 minutes of me talking about that. So anyway, I hope that was useful and interesting information anyway. So to pick up where we left off, remember the dictionary describes humanism as a doctrine, an attitude or way of life. Now we are looking at humanism as presented, as used by what we call secular humanists, atheists, right? So they like to term it as a religion. I mean, this is from their founders. This is from their major founders, their major supporters, the people who backed this, who sponsored it. Ultra says, say what you want about humanism. At least we don't believe in a God that explicitly outlawed alcohol but not slavery. I'm not sure what to make of that comment. So it's just that, look, you need to find orthodoxy within atheism as well. Because, look, for instance, you get an individual atheist who says, well, I don't believe that dictionary because that's not my scholar, that's not my dictionary. Now look, fine, you can have an individual atheist that goes, I don't believe that squares are made of 4 equal sides. Sure, I mean, he can be as mentally challenged as he chooses to be. However, the academy, mathematics, logic, science, and history all tell us squares are made of 4 equal sides, last I checked. So you always have single individual atheists, just like Muslims, like Abduls, who will deny something. But the fact is you need orthodoxy, because if you all have your own definitions, then you are just making up your own story. It's all trash. It all becomes poop. It's meaningless. There must be orthodoxy. So do we listen to John Q. Anonymous person in the YouTube comments, or do we go to the most highly educated PhD atheists on the planet? Do we go to the people who signed and created these documents, these major organizations that organize and proselytize atheism? I think we go with the professionals. And the professionals disagree with the village atheists. Humanism adds validity to my truth. Now, that idea of my truth is a pagan idea, Carol B. That's a pagan idea that comes from 4th and 5th and 6th century BC Greece. So this humanist philosophy, this atheist philosophy, is really just paganism. They slap on the label science and they send it out the door. And it's now science. It's 2,500-year-old paganism. Now, they want to complain that, oh, the New Testament is old. Well, this stuff's even older, and it's even more trashy. I discern my own purpose in life. That's nice. That's nice. You do your own thing. So, which means that your opinion is valid only for you. It carries no weight whatsoever. So you're like a single individual ant. You do not speak for the hive. And there is a hive. There is a doctrine. There's a dogma. So the only authority in my life is, yeah, well, fine. So the dictionary defines doctrine as a principle or position or the body of principles in a branch of knowledge or system of belief. A dogma. What is a dogma? It's a doctrine or body of doctrines concerning faith or morals, formally stated and authoritatively proclaimed by a church. So, yeah, several academic dictionaries, right, these collegiate dictionaries and so on, define atheism as a dogma, as a doctrine, as a set of beliefs. despite all the protestations of village atheists. Okay? Now, what we have is, of course, let's continue. So I finished off here last time. So humanism, the worship of man. So what we have is Curtis Reese tells us there's a large element of faith in all religion. Christianity has faith in the love of God, and humanism in man as the measure of values. Of course, this is a pagan idea from the Sophists called Protagoras. Sophists were professional liars. So humanism and atheism proudly take their philosophy from a bunch of pagans who were paid to lie, to teach people to lie professionally. To be called a sophist was an insult because you were a professional liar. You didn't seek truth, you looked to bamboozle people, to baffle them with poop. So they tell us humanism in man is the measure of values, and hypotheses, postulates, and assumptions in their proper realm are comparable to faith in the realm of religion. Right? In this way, I speak of the faith of humanism. Right? So, another humanist deals with the humanistic beliefs in right and wrong. In humanism, right and wrong are defined in terms of consequence to human life. Now, in other words, does it make you happy? Well, if it makes you happy, then go for it. Because there is absolutely no moral lawgiver within the atheist worldview. Humanism decides, and atheism decides that what makes man happy. And this, of course, goes back to, once more, pagan philosophies, which were picked up during the Enlightenment and so on, and just muddled their way forward through history. But again, we're looking at pagan philosophies. Now, Gerald A. Locke, we'll come to him a couple of times. He signed the Humanist Manifesto, and he told us, our religion is based on the best that we know about our cosmos and our world, and blah, 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 blah. So, our religion. So, over and over, these professional humanists, these senior humanists with PhDs who ran humanist churches, because, as you know, atheists are happy to tell us, Lloyd, humanism is not a religion. You're a poopy head. You don't know anything. Well, sadly, these humanists constantly tell us humanism is a religion, that this atheistic religion is a religion. So, Edwin Wilson, 1979 Humanist of the Year, he co-founded and edited the New Humanist magazine, believes humanism to be a religion. He says, humanism in a naturalistic frame is validly a religion. So there's a comment here. Let me see. So, it's a part of humanism, do as thou wilt. Now, that is true because it is the will versus logos, to do what thou wilt. The will to power, as Nietzsche would put it. Now, Nietzsche, as you know, was probably a Baptist, or maybe he was an atheist, or maybe, who knows, maybe he was the Pope. Gosh alone knows, but I suspect maybe he wasn't a Baptist. That's my personal view. He could have been closer towards being an atheist. So, the idea of logos versus will, this is really the idea of following a moral lawgiver versus following the satanic, right? Because Satan is the will. This is will versus logos. So, but that's an interesting discussion for another time, actually. So, but yeah, and I mean, this ties again into multiple of these humanist philosophies, these ideas that go back to the pagans and of the will. And we'll actually come across Nietzsche in a little bit on that point. All right, so now the Humanist Manifesto 1 describes humanism as religion over and over, right? I've mentioned this, and humanists admit to being a religious organization, right? And even the American courts recognize that religions that do not believe in God as real religions, when it wrote, among religions in this country which do not teach what would generally be considered a belief in God are Buddhism, Taoism, ethical culture, secular humanism, and others. Atheism gets on that list as well. It is considered a religion, and atheists went to court to defend their right to be called a religion. Okay? Okay, now I'll skip this. We've done this before. So now let's continue. So we're speaking of Rudolf Dreikurs. We'll come across him again later. He writes an article called The Religion of Democracy, Part 2. And that's fascinating, the religion of democracy. You'll notice the left in America, our democracy, our democracy, our democracy. We must defend our democracy because it's their religion, right? He argues that humanism should be thought of as religious because of the form and content. The new religion will probably be humanistic. It'll be concerned with man and not with God. This new religion will have new principles, new rituals, and new symbols. Right? Now, Ultra, here's the thing. So, Deduza, you can just both quit for a moment. Understand that you don't speak, Ultra, you do not speak for your flock. Let's put it that way. You don't speak for the hordes of atheist humanists. So you don't speak for the orthodoxy, but there is nothing, literally nothing in atheism that goes against the doctrine that thou shalt not murder. Where is the atheist orthodoxy that says thou shalt not diddle babies? Thou shalt not torture babies? Where is that written? That is not written anywhere. There is nothing in atheism to prevent those kinds of atrocities. It is purely not part of the doctrine, because atheists like to tell us there is no doctrine, as if having no beliefs has no consequences in the world. Ideas have consequences. And otherwise they claim it's a lack of thinking. Now, a lack of thinking also has consequences. Deliberate ignorance, deliberately being stupid or deliberately being obtuse, also happens to have consequences. So atheists have not thought this through. I'm on OBS, so you would not be able to get onto the stream now. So I would have to set that up. I mean, in theory, I could probably try and get you through via Skype, but I would probably only get your voice in because the camera's already been captured. So, and there's some things you cannot do on OBS live. So as a human must repent and have faith in Jesus to be born again. That makes individual Christians. Okay, sorry, let's see, let's reflectieren. Es ist Licht in dir. Okay. So he isn't an atheist. Actually, technically, yes. If you look at many old atheists, and we've mentioned some of these atheist thinkers like Feuerbach, right? One of the original atheist thinkers, modern atheist thinkers. He stated that you're not a proper atheist unless you reject the moral law of God. You have to reject the moral law of God, because then atheists are left with a moral problem wherein they need to have things like opinions, right? Social norms, but social norms change. So there is nothing that is overarching. There's purely just preference. Okay, so moving on. Now notice those involved in humanist religion have their own ministers. Right? Minister is defined in Merriam-Webster as one example, as one officiating or assisting the officiant in church worship. Harvard University has a humanist chaplain. There are 34 full and part-time chaplains at the United Ministry at Harvard and Radcliffe. So these people, they are a practicing, proselytizing religion. Ray Johnson says, I think Maslow had a lot of regrets about humanism. He started destroying much of his humanist materials to protect his grandchildren after seeing what humanism did to his kids. Yes. Yeah. So, anywho, humanists fall under the title here, religious services. So, yeah, we've covered this PhD thesis, which goes into the argumentation of humanists, and they speak of being religious constantly. Charles Francis Potter, he mentions that education is the most powerful ally of humanism, and every American public school is a school of humanism. What can theistic Sunday schools meeting for 1 hour once a week, teaching only a fraction of the children, do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching? So in other words, these people have infiltrated the schools and are teaching their humanistic views in opposition to the Christian values that these schools were created under. Of course, he also wrote a book called Humanism, A New Religion, and of course he wrote a very speculative book called The Lost Years of Jesus Revealed. Now, he founded the first humanist church in New York City in 1929. In his book, Humanism, A New Religion, he states, humanism is not simply another denomination of Protestant Christianity, right? It is a new type of religion. Sorry about that. It's a new type of religion altogether. It's a new way of looking at religion. You have to broaden your definition of what a religion is. It is both a religion and a philosophy. So, thanks, Francis Potter. He also wrote in 1925 in a newspaper article that I discovered. Sorry, let me, got a scratch in my throat here, but let me try and find this newspaper article so that we can actually show you guys that this is real. I didn't make that in Photoshop. I hate you guys to think I made this in Photoshop. Dang it. Okay, so I think I have to log in. So, okay, no. Give me a sec. Let me find where this article went. Grandchildren. Okay, so I'm going to search here for grandchildren, and hopefully that'll find it. Okay, so unfortunately, okay, hold on. I'm going to have to log in. Great. You know what? It's not that important. Let me drop the link into the chat. You guys can log into archive.org. And there you go. And you can look it up yourself. This is on archive.org. They've got this link. Give me one sec. I'm going to have to clear my throat. Let me just turn off the audio. Okay, I'm back. My throat's clear. So, he says that the old God is gone. We can no longer believe in the God who these people believed in. Those who are called atheists today will be hailed as prophets of a new religion by our grandchildren. Now, of course, random atheist is going to come along and say, well, I don't believe that. That's nice. You're speaking for yourself. You're just one little locust out of a horde of locusts. No, I don't have COVID. It's just dry throat from the dry air from the... If I open the window, it's a minus a billion degrees. If I close the window, it gets to plus a billion degrees inside. So my throat gets dry. So, okay, so understand, the old God is gone. We cannot believe in the God that these Christians believed in. And atheists today will be hailed as prophets of a new religion by our grandchildren. This, of course, takes us back to a quote by Feuerbach. Now, I have mentioned Feuerbach before. And Feuerbach, let me just bring this up here. This is Feuerbach, remember? He says here, what yesterday was still religion is no longer such today. And what today is atheism, tomorrow will be religion, right? And of course, we need to note that, we just take this away, right? All of the communists of 1845 were followers of Feuerbach. Now, here's an interesting thing. Veronica, welcome. Okay. So what we have to wonder is now, why is this guy who is not a communist quoting effectively the same as Feuerbach, who was a rabid communist? Marx followed Feuerbach. All of these communists of the day followed Feuerbach because atheism and communism, atheism and socialism are very tightly linked historically. They're effectively two sides of the very same coin. Socialism is an atheistic religion, and atheism is required for socialism to function as well. Also, he wrote this interesting book called, Arnold, welcome. Welcome, good to see you, thank you. Good to have you here. The Lost Years of Jesus Revealed, and this is his translation of various books. He says, the translation and preliminary study of hundreds of priceless ancient manuscripts, lately and simultaneously discovered, an Essene library in Palestine called the Dead Sea Scrolls, and a Gnostic one in Egypt, the Nag Hammadi library, has already revealed to startled and still secretive scholars, while an impressive personality of greater mental stature and deeper wisdom and wider experience than has hitherto been claimed by Jesus worshippers or suspected by his critics. This book is entirely speculative. I mean, a lot of this information has since been proven completely false because we know these books are written in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century. So these are by no means historical books. These are books trying to fill in the blanks of Jesus' missing years. And he speaks of the new Jesus appearing out of the clouds of unknowing. Yeah, so he was trying to basically destroy Christianity with this new concept of the Gnostics. So he seems to have been very taken by the idea of the Gnostics. Fantastic. Now we go to Ray Wood Sellers. Welcome, Dragon. Good to see you. Thank you. So he's the author of the 1933 Humanist Manifesto. And he speaks of a religion founded on realities in a religion coming of age. Interesting. So the Humanist Manifesto, the very first Humanist Manifesto, speaks of a religion founded on realities in a religion coming of age. You see, because the old religions are fading out, and now you've got the new religion. Saller said this in his groundbreaking work, Religion Coming of Age. He wrote a book called Religion Coming of Age because, as you know, secular humanism is not a religion. Repeat after me, because that's what atheists always tell me. I'm a poopy head because I don't know that secular humanism is not a religion. He speaks of religion capable of furnishing adequate social goals. To establish such a religion is a major necessity of the present. So they worked to establish a religion that can furnish adequate social goals. Scientific Christianity for us, right? And this is in the Humanist Manifesto 1. And he says, it is a great mistake to go to science to find out what religion is. All science can do is to help us decide what religion we should not believe in. Well, as you know, they should not believe in We should not believe in the religion that Christians believe in because the newspaper article told us that, atheism is the new religion, right? The American Humanist Association honored Roy Wood Sellers, who claimed that traditional religion is dying and humanism is becoming the new religion. So over and over, these humanists, these atheists, and so on are telling us humanism is a new religion. He's known for his defense of religious humanism, the view that religion must be reinterpreted in terms of its role in improving humanity's this-worldly experience, just as, of course, the word woman must be reinterpreted in today's gender-diverse, mentally insane, utterly backwards, upside-down, delusional environment. Timur says, God is science, he made science. Sorry for yelling. Yeah, well. And of course, Sellers, Roy Wood, in 1902, wrote a very interesting document or book an article called The Reinterpretation of Democracy. Now, I couldn't find it exactly, but I did find this. So he says, we not only have to reinterpret the word woman, because where does this nonsense stop? We must not only, not woman, birthing person. I am so sorry. Yeah, how do we distinguish between people who birth and people who don't birth? Because they're all the same, right? I mean, atheists have given up on logic. Atheists claim to be rational. They have destroyed logic. They walked up to it and shot it in their head. Idiocy. These are atheists doing it. So, Ultra, these are your friends, the atheists that are making all of these crazy, ascientific claims. So Roy Wood, he writes this article here called he wrote a book called The Next Step in Democracy, right? And this was 1916. So it says that the general purpose of this excellent book is to give a clear idea of those advances in social, economic, and political life which appeal to the intelligent man as desirable and feasible. Okay, so they're going to bring us advances, right? The dialectic. Marx spoke of these advances as well, right? Progressives, right? They're progressive. He speaks of questions, what do we mean by equality of opportunity? What do we mean by equality? And all these, and such questions as these are broad in the land, and the sentiments of which they are fostering will gradually find expression in those practical reforms and social experiments which mark the onward movement of democracy. Because, change is the only constant, and, we need to keep changing. And there are 3 stages of change we need to go through because as atheists will tell you, socialism and atheism are not connected. They are nothing to do with each other. There's no evidence for that, except that these guys are joined at the hip like Siamese twins. The 3 stages are the stage of status, often spoken of as primitive socialism. Clearly, he's not a socialist, so don't assume that socialism means socialism, just like woman doesn't refer to woman. Then he speaks of the stage of individualism, right? And which is called the police power view of the state, and on its economic side, laissez-faire. And then finally, the stage of socialism. So this man wants to progress. Democracy must move towards socialism. Hegel said this, Marx said this, Lenin said this, Stalin said this, but don't confuse their atheism and their humanism with any kind of Soviet propaganda campaign. They are not useful idiots for socialists. They're not useful idiots for communists, even though they say the very same things the communists do. It's just a coincidence. Even though they want communism and they have the very same aims as communists, it's got nothing to do with Islam, honestly. So, he says, socialism is a democratic movement whose purpose is securing an economic reorganization of society. Yep, that's what the Russians did, which will give them maximum possible of justice, liberty, and efficiency. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Ray. And whose plan is the gradual socializing of industry. Well, Hitler socialized industry. Stalin socialized industry to the degree and extent that seem experimentally feasible. Oh, they're willing to do social experiments on you because they're humanists and they're smarter than you and they know better. Because they know better. They're smarter than you. Just don't argue. Just eat the bugs, bigot. Okay, so yeah, fascinating stuff. Now, same guy, the next step in religion. And I realized, let me go and change that because I need to fix that. I just realized that this needs to... And here we are. So, he writes this book called The Next Step in Religion. And the next step in religion, an essay towards the coming Renaissance. So these guys are going to lead us to a Renaissance when they bring their religion. It's going to be a new utopia, not a dystopia. No, 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 no. Because real socialism has never been tried. This is what these guys are leading at. Yeah, we should just elect Terry Crews and get it over with. At least he's not woke. He's Christian. Fascinating. Yeah, we are becoming an idiocracy. And yeah, reason is being destroyed in front of our eyes. So, yeah, guys, I mean, does this make sense so far? I mean, I'm just reading to you what these people have written, right? So, it tells us the center of gravity of religion has been changing for some time from supernaturalism to a humanistic naturalism. Well, think Darwinism. Every age must possess its own religion, a religion concordant with its knowledge and expressive of its problems and aims. And the coming phase of religion, oh boy, a religion of action and passion, a social religion, a religion of goals and prospects. Sounds like Islam, a religion that is a social system as well as a political system. It'll be a free man's religion, a religion for an adult and aspiring democracy. Well, we've just realized this democracy happens to be communist. But the humanist religion is a religion of one who says yay to life here and now. So this is about hedonistic pleasure. We're just going back to the pagans. Once more, thank you, paganism. Here we are, back again, 2,600 years ago. And he says it's the religion of the will to power. The will to power. This would be political. And I'll mention Nietzsche shortly. So the religious man will now be he who seeks out what causes to be loyal to and what social mistakes to correct. Well, everything needs to be criticized, as Marx said, because everything is wrong, everything needs to be torn down, and everything needs to be rebuilt because Marx knows best. And he is, well, he's following Marx. Thanks, Lloyd, for your informative explanation. Well, thank you, Pierre. Yeah, I hope the sarcasm doesn't cloud the information. But, I mean, this stuff just upsets me. It just absolutely annoys me. And I've got to listen to atheists tell me that secular humanism is not a religion and atheism has nothing to do with socialism. Yeah, thanks. The religion of human possibilities. Again, too much religion here. The will to power sounds like Islam, yeah. Sounds like Nietzsche, sounds like, yeah. It needs prophets who will grip men's souls with their description of a society in which righteousness, wisdom, and beauty will reign together. Yeah, thanks, Utopia. Loyalty to such an ideal will surely constitute the heart of the humanists' religion. Yeah, so, okay. Yes, Tim, yeah, I'm being so. The ideals of a religion can never be easy. The prophets were stern critics. Okay, so Jesus knew blah, blah, blah. Okay, his followers would find their way, no primrose path, he says. Now, if religion is to survive, it must be human and social. It is they who insist upon a supernatural foundation and object who are its enemies. Now, you need to understand, in the West, I don't know what's happened, but Westerners have somehow lost the idea that they are enemies. You have enemies. There is not just one brotherly love. You have enemies. There are people who hate you. There are people who hate you for being white. It's that simple. There are people who hate you for being a straight white male. I don't think I need to really... You all know this. This is not a secret, right? Black people are, to a very large degree, indoctrinated and taught to hate white people to lesser or greater degrees, but you've seen this. You've seen this. It is okay to be racist towards white people. Now, by the same token, these people are being taught to hate Christians. They're being taught to be aggressive towards Christians, to stamp it out, to see it as an evil. And notice, already we've seen he wants to turn Jesus into a completely different figure through his whole Gnostic Gospels. And they need to remake religion in their own image. So it is the Christians who insist upon a supernatural foundation who are the enemies of religion. We are the enemies of religion. We've taken a good idea, deformed and twisted it. Well, Marx said that. Many others have said that. Why are atheists then following along with these ideas? So, yeah. And he says, so long as man shall dream of beauty and goodness and truth in his life will not lack religion. So he never returned his horse. Says the news today is that Wells Fargo will no longer fund mortgages for white people. Well, yeah. I mean, this is not going to stop. This is because of atheists. Ultra, I don't know if you're here, but you need to see what's wrong in your church. Atheists own this. The idea that men can be women and men can have babies, atheists introduced this. Okay, the sexualization of children, atheists are doing this. And you need to own this. The will to power, the German Der Wille zur Macht, is a concept in philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. It describes what Nietzsche may have believed to be the main driving force in humans. At least, don't forget, the man had syphilis, the man was insane. The guy was actually literally out of his mind. The concept was never systematically defined in Nietzsche's work, leaving its interpretation open to debate. We can summarize it as self-determination, the concept of actualizing one's will onto one's self or one's surroundings. So it is will, it is doing what you want. Don't forget, Anton, LaVey and others have stated, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. That is the Satanic Creed. Why do we now have a humanist espousing the Satanic Creed? If everyone does what they want, no one abides by a law, then you have chaos, you have disorder, because then it's force that will enforce your will. And you have to do great violence to enforce your will over others. So, and notice it says here, this coincides heavily with egoism. Right? Now, Alfred Adler is another humanist, another type of humanism, incorporated the will to power into his individual psychology. This can be contrasted to the other Viennese schools of psychotherapy. You have sick man Freud, and he had his pleasure principle, or the will to pleasure, which is again the idea of hedonism. Again, a pagan idea, and again something utilitarianism and other concepts which were part of what these humanists were discussing of the only good is pleasure. The only evil is being denied your pleasure. So what if you're a pedophile? Does that mean that not being able to fulfill your pleasure, that is evil? Well, yeah, that's logically where it leads to. And of course, you've got Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, The Will to Meaning. I've actually read his book. I believe it's called Man's Search for Meaning. It was actually, if it is the same book, it was very, very good. He doesn't come across as a psychopath. Whereas sick man Freud and the rest, well, questionable. Each of these schools advocates and teaches a very different essential driving force in human beings. I think the will to meaning, wanting to find meaning in life, that's important. But the will to pleasure, that's an empty chase. Because that pleasure means sex. That's really, it just comes down to eroticism. Or a cannibal, correct. He never returned his horse. Pleasure, yeah, cannibalism. So yeah, if it makes him happy, then do it, right? This, yeah, that's satanic. And again, so we're dealing with a moral system that is just not sustainable, not tenable. Nietzsche, a formidable philosopher, spent 13 years in a mental asylum. Yes, yeah, the guy was nuts. So, yeah, people think you must be perfect to love Christ. The love of Christ will make you perfect. So, MAPs will not be MAPs, MAPs. They want to try and make it minor attracted persons. It just means minor attracted pedophiles. Will not be the end of modern sexual depravity. It will be accepted before you know it. Yeah, they've been pushing for a long time. Ultra, you are an atheist. These are atheists pushing for this. But delaying gratification is a hallmark of maturity. That is true. Carl Jung and maybe Erickson were the only ones who believed in God. No, Carl Jung was a Gnostic. He believed in the Gnostic God. Whatever else he might have told you. Carl Jung wrote a book on Gnosticism. He wrote 2 detailed treatises on Gnosticism. So, and I believe Carl Jung was also a Nazi. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. RJ says, I guess my will for laughing falls under will to pleasure. I just laugh and ridicule all of these special people. Yeah, they need to be ridiculed as much as possible. Okay, let me continue. Now let's look at John Dewey, the father of American education. He wrote a book called A Common Faith. Common faith, well, humanism, a common faith for mankind. In fact, the oldest faith, the oldest religion. And I'm going to be looking at a book called The Messianic Character of American Education. Right, by R.J. Rush Dooney. John Dewey's views on philosophy and education flowed from his naturalistic worldview. He replaced Christianity with his own religion called secular humanism. Now, this is an educated man who is instrumental in the creation of the US education system. And of course, lay atheists will have to tell me here, but he wasn't a real Muslim because he was doing Islam all wrong. He hijacked Islam and was doing it wrong. Obviously, right? So he replaced Christianity with his own religion, secular humanism, which he described in A Common Faith. He said, here are all the elements for a religious faith that shall not be confined to sect, class, or race. Wow, so nice. A classless. There was a guy that spoke about a classless system of utopia. What was his name? Big communist. Marx. Yeah, he spoke of a classless society. Such a faith has always been the common faith of mankind. It remains for us to make it explicit and militant. Oh, so he wanted it to be explicit and militant, as did all of the communists, were required to make their atheism explicit and militant. It's not calling for violence, really. Jihad is it's a personal jihad. It means peace, really, genuinely. So a nation of workers, not thinkers, Rockefeller. Yeah. So, right. Now, Dewey rejected God and his word essential to education and replaced them with secular humanism. Democracy was Dewey's God, and the state school his church. He thus taught that education centered on the child instead of God. In other words, we need to indoctrinate the child. Don't teach them principles. Don't teach them religious principles. Don't raise them in a Christian fashion. We need to shape their minds. We need to indoctrinate them, teach them what to think, not how to think. The child becomes the sun about which the appliances of education revolve. He is the center about which they are organized, the school and society. This is quoted in The Messianic Character of American Education, page 154. Yeah, so Marx's equality still has an elite running things. Correct. Well, Marx believed that don't forget, he believed that the West, where there was rampant industrialization, would create the proletariat who would revolt against the bourgeoisie and overthrow their masters. This, of course, did not happen because along with the rise of industrialization came the rise in their standard of living and wealth and their ability to raise themselves out of poverty. Lenin then obviously realized that with the failure of this revolution to happen in England and Germany, with the failure of this revolution, he realized that there needs to be a ruling elite, a revolutionary management elite to lead these people to the overthrow. And of course, this led to the issue, the contradiction, that what you have now is this elite needs to be overthrown by the people that they are managing. And of course, they want to retain their roles. And this obviously, this is just never going to happen, right? So yeah, this is just the idiocy involved in the whole Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist idea. So Prophet Karl Marx, Moses Mordecai LaVey. I'm not certain about that, but Marx's grandparents were Jews. Marx's parents converted, and Marx himself was a Christian growing up. He was converted by an atheist called Bruno Bauer. So he was converted at university by an atheist, and he became a rabid atheist. He became a rabid anti-Semitic and a staunch Darwinist. So he was converted by an atheist because atheists, as you know, never proselytize, not looking to expand their religion. Of course, they're now Masons. Okay, so Robert Jansen's asked, the Freemasons are also involved in atheism. Look, technically, technically the Freemasons. Yeah, this is wow, Roman, thank you very, very much. I am so grateful. Thank you. Thank you for that donation of 10 euros. Much, much appreciated. Thank you. The Freemasons have, according to what I've seen, according to the Muslims, according to the Sufis, according to the Islamic sources, have long since been taken over by Islam. And the Freemasons were originally founded by Muslims. And the Sufis claim to be the original Freemasons. And when you go through, I've done talks on this. Look on my channel under Gnosticism and Freemasonry and the KKK. Look at my talks on that. There's Islamic symbolism within the Freemasons, but also once you get to a certain degree within the Freemasons, you can then join to become a Shriner. The Shriners are out and out, specifically Islamic. So the organization above the Freemasons are the Shriners, who are an Islamic secret society. So there's more to that, but I'm not going to get into that now. But the Masons basically claim that you need to believe in a God. But the thing is that God that they say that everyone should believe in ultimately becomes Allah, because they pray to the God of Allah. So to the God of Muhammad and the God of Ali. So yeah, so they eventually, once you do that, you become, you serve the God of Islam. Thank you, Ultra. you've got to get me on the stream. Like, what do you want to discuss, Ultra? Do let me know. I mean, of course they are, but so, okay, hold on. Let me continue here. Okay, so back to this. Now, Dewey rejected God, okay? And notice here the idea of our common faith. This comes out of the Bible in Titus 1:4. To Titus, my true son, in our common faith, grace and peace from God the Father and Christ Jesus our Savior. So once again, they're simply just taking things from the Bible, taking things from Christianity and adapting them, right? So the Yorkite, no, don't forget, if you look at the Catholic Church, if you look at the encyclicals by the Pope against anything, the most negative, the most encyclicals against anything was written by the Catholic Church against Freemasonry. They railed against Freemasonry. They denounced it up and down, and those still stand. Right? So the Catholic Church is dead set, flat against Freemasonry. Right? So Tim Moore says, former de Malay in my youth for about 4 years, junior Mason. Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've had a few Masons pop on and speak about their experiences, but thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so notice here's his book, A Common Faith, and it's a course book at Yale University Press, A Common Faith, 2nd edition, John Dewey series, the Terry Lecture Series. It is a course book. So, of course, yeah, it's taught at university level. So, yeah, whatever he says here, understand this is common. They want to push this through the education system. Until Vatican II, things there are changing. No, those encyclicals still stand, but Vatican II is clearly, I mean, there are sections of Vatican II. I've read certain sections of it. And there are some sections of it that clearly, I mean, a child who was either retarded or someone who was malicious or ignorant, willfully ignorant, wrote it. Yeah. The sections on Islam are flat out wrong. And Islam in Tira Verdad says, but the Masonic cult is as ancient as paganism. An ex-Mason from Brazil explained some years ago a verse from Ezekiel, I don't remember, but he said Masons do those actions. Look, I mean, Masons could have been made by, seriously, Bigfoot could have built the Masons in his garage in 1943. For all you know. I mean, the Bible's been around for a while, so no, the Muslims do claim, they do actually make the claim that they are the original Freemasons, that they founded the Freemason movement, and that they actually smuggled Freemasonry into England as well as into Scotland. The Templars were taken over, became Sufis, and took Freemasonry into Scotland. So exactly the same as the Prophet was describing. Fine and well, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, if they are against God, if all of these are movements against God, then of course they're going to go against the moral law. So Villeneuve says humanism owns the universities, and yes, that is true. They own the schools, they own all the public space. Okay, so let me see here. What has public education been trying to accomplish? Well, before the 1830s in Horace Mann, another name, but no schools in the US were state-supported or state-controlled. So there was a time when all schools were supported locally. There were local parent-teacher enterprises supported without taxes, taking care of all children in their communities. They were remarkably high in standard and were Christian. As you know, American education has sunk to incredible lows. Now, from man to the present, the state has used education to socialize the child. The school's basic purpose, according to its own philosophers, is not education in the traditional sense of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Instead, it is to promote democracy and equality. So democracy, well, Marx, socialism. Equality, well, equity, socialism, not in a legal or civic sense, but in terms of the engineering of a socialized citizenry. Well, back to socialism, back to Marx. Public education became the means of creating a social order of the educator's design. Such men saw themselves and the school in messianic terms. That's in this book, The Messianic Character of American Education. Right. So, yeah. So this book was instrumental in launching the Christian school and homeschool movements. And yeah, because American public school is infested by these people. So yes, our wonderful department of indoctrination. Yeah, exactly. So they probably have Gnostic origins, which was co-opted by Islam to give them structure. Yep. Look, I mean, guys, that's like somewhat off topic. And I mean, there's a lot of strands here. Like Islam, you couldn't say it's just one thing. It's a number of things, right? So, and the history is detailed. I mean, there's so much noise. There's so much nonsense, right, to be found. So this is Horace Mann. So we'll go a couple more slides. So This is Horace Mann, picture of him going back here. About man's intellectual progressivism, the historian Elwood P. Cubberley said, "No one did more than he to establish in the minds of the American people the conception that education should be universal." Okay? Marx wanted universal, free education. Why? Because he can then indoctrinate all kids. If you made it free, everyone could access it. And thus, you, from a single source, could indoctrinate all the minds of children into... Marx was a humanist too. Do not forget. Karl Marx was a humanist. So they wanted education that was universal, non-sectarian, free, and that its aims should be social efficiency. Didn't we see that before? Efficiency, civic virtue, and character, rather than mere learning or the advancement of sectarian ends. Well, the Nazis wanted to create the perfect Nazi Aryan man and woman. The Soviets wanted to create the perfect Soviet man and woman. And here they want someone with, and Muslims obviously go to tarbiyah school, right? Etiquette, or it's word similar to etiquette or manners, right? Tarbiyah, they have tarbiyah guides that Muslim children learn at the madrasa, right? Which teaches them a particular kind of Islamic character, right? These are the rules. So this is very similar across these communist systems. And they, rather than mere learning or the advancement of sectarian ends, so they don't want you just learning. They want you to know what to learn, not how to learn. This has been their aim. This is the humanist aim. Okay, Ultra, while you're there, what is it you want to discuss? So we can talk. You can always send me an email. We can chat. We can meet. We can discuss. I stand against trans activists that propagate nonsense like men can have babies. Yeah, well, of course it's trash, but it is right now, that stuff is legislated. Now, you have atheists that constantly moan about Christians wanting to legislate their beliefs and their morals, and saying, don't push your morals on me, except we now have to deal with this nonsense that men can have babies, right? That if you wear a dress, you're a woman. These are Gnostic ideas. These are insane ideas. Now, just to remind you guys, who some of you will have seen this before, the American school system was founded on Christian religious grounds. For instance, there's the Old Deluder Satan Act of 1647. Massachusetts, for instance, passed the Old Deluder Satan Act in 1647, laying the basis for public schools in America. The Puritans valued literacy highly. How literate is America today? I mean, your literacy rate is atrocious. It's in the toilet. They believed all individuals should be able to read and interpret the Bible for themselves. Okay, very much Protestant. In 1642, Massachusetts had required parents to ensure their children's ability to read. And of course, most people were just reading the Bible. And 5 years later, in this act, the state mandated community schooling. The act required towns to support teachers for their children. So there was no government funding here. The religious basis of the act was explicit. The act stated its intention was to thwart the old deluder Satan in his goal to keep men from the knowledge of the scriptures. And of course, today, the atheist humanists in the schools, in the education system, want to keep men from the knowledge of the scriptures because they are working their hardest to push any kind of religious education out of the public sphere and squash it wherever they can. All right. Now, let's have a look at the Free Inquiry magazine, which celebrates reason and humanity. Now America's only humanist journal of ideas. So you can buy stuff at their store. And there's the Council for Secular Humanism, and it's beyond atheism, beyond agnosticism, secular humanism. So it's beyond atheism. Right. So, yeah. Okay, so you can subscribe to the magazine, Free Inquiry, the Humanist Journal of Ideas. You can go and buy things, and you can learn about secular humanism, which is beyond atheism. Maybe it's like atheism plus. Let's have a look at some of the covers of what they... Remember, atheists don't believe in anything, right? It's a lack of belief. It's a neutral space. It's an absolute lack of thinking. Let's look what they don't think about. Free Inquiry magazine, Deconstructing Religion. 6 leading researchers have learned far more about faith than you probably expect. That's because they don't think about anything. It's just a lack of belief. The Meaning of Humanism. This is author Yuval Noah Harari, debates philosopher A.P. Norman over Harari's harsh view of humanism. Well, this guy doesn't believe that you are worth anything because humanism doesn't teach the value of human life. He says that is a holdover from primitive Christianity, you see, because you are a meaningless piece of matter in a meaningless universe and you have no universal rights. There are no God-given rights. Now, if you read anything by Yuval Noah Harari, you realize that you need to have a shower after you've listened to this guy for more than 5 minutes, right? So let me see, we had a couple of comments. Villainous says, comparative religion courses in schools is about saying all religions are nonsense, except for humanist religion. Except for that, right? Because it's not a religion. Atheism on stilts, Marion, yes, correct. And Timur says, been subscribed to that magazine for years. Waste of trees, you know. So Robert Jansen says, Harari is a kind of monster. Yeah, I mean, he's just honest about where atheism leads. He's just honest about the logical conclusion. I mean, Darwinism taken to its ultimate conclusion is horrific. It's barbaric, right? So we'll talk about Darwin in the future. Leela, welcome. So, yeah, I'm not so, yeah, lots of new people. Welcome. Good to see you all. So let's have a look. Free inquiry. Okay. And here we have humanism and suicide, a positive view, because, you know, suicide's a good thing. Thanks, atheists. So now, as you know, the Nazis started with, shall we say, less than voluntary suicide of people they didn't like. They started with people who were mentally ill. They started with people who were crippled. So the lesser abled people, be it mentally or physically, were involuntarily suicided. Hundreds of thousands of people died that way, right? The numbers run into the six figures. The Nazis decided these people, because of Darwinism, they were the inferior genes and they needed to go because they were polluting the gene pool. They couldn't allow their bad genes to mix. So, of course, the Nazis suicided these people. And, of course, now in Canada, you have the new suicide laws. And, of course, these ideas are spreading all over because atheists have a high regard for human life. Oh, so you lost your leg and you're feeling depressed. Well, here's a tablet. Go kill yourself. Oh, you've lost money. You aren't getting along in life. You don't feel well adjusted. Here's a tablet. Go kill yourself. Go to the clinic. Go kill yourself tomorrow. You might, yeah, there's like shades of Soylent Green and other dystopian movies that are rocking up here. And don't forget, the Nazis were considered barbaric and committing crimes against humanity, guilty of atrocities for this very same thing that is now becoming legal in Canada, that atheists are promoting. Atheists, you guys need to clean your house out because your house is filthy. This is an atheist idea which is being promoted. And again, the Nazis were considered monsters for this. And atheists are going like little seals are clapping for it. Because they believe in the value of human life. So, yeah, so abortion, suicide, genocide. So, yeah, have not God is good for humanism. Yeah, so, of course, remove God. And then, as Solzhenitsyn said, everything is possible, right? Because God is a moral backstop. So the humane way to deal with depression, yeah, go kill yourself. Or, here, let me take you to the clinic. I'll drive you. That's humane. I'll take you there until you can kill yourself. That's humanism. Thank you. Humanism and suicide, a positive view. Why the Bible is so poorly written. Oh, boy. Fantastic. The essay that Salon censored, expanded, read it here. Of course, because Salon, as low standards as it might be, probably realized that article was utter trash. Let's have a look. Special blasphemy issue, defending the right to blaspheme, because they're not against religion. They don't have a problem. No. They don't have any beliefs at all. But they're gonna blaspheme you because that's what they do, right? So, yeah, let's continue. So, humanists, these atheists, have also brought us this beautiful gem here. The humanist case against patriotism. You know, kneeling during the national anthem, burning the flag, stepping on the flag, hating your country. Well, thanks, humanists. I wonder where this came from. I was wondering where this came from. Well, you have the humanist case against patriotism because, of course, humanists don't want to blaspheme Islam. They don't want to blaspheme their friends, now do they? Right? They're partners in crime here against the West and against Christian religion. Of course not. So, yeah. So, of course, now, humanists against patriotism, of course, because no borders, right? No boundaries, right? We're all one. We're all the same. Everything's identical, right? So yeah, that's your humanists. One day the old will have to do it voluntarily if we let them. No, look, already that, Marion, that idea is coming, that old people are, time to voluntarily off yourself. That's coming. No, that's already been, that idea is out there. It's just a matter of time. Let's have a look at this one. Richard Dawkins and Daniel C. Dennett. And in Free Inquiry, The Great Scandal, Christianity's Role in the Rise of the Nazis. Thanks. They don't do propaganda at all. As you can see, these guys are all reason, and these guys are all just, patriotism is bad, white people bad. That's going to come next, right? So the real danger of the Christian right, and of course, suicide is great. Yeah, so let's have a look. A religion for a new age. Let me double check that. Sorry, I need to have a look at this here. Okay, no, that is correct. Okay, thought I made a mistake on the slide, but let me get back there. And actually, I want to bring up my chat thing, because I'm not sure why my little chat widget is not working, but yeah, really annoying. I installed this chat app, and let me stop it and restart it, and we'll see what happens. Because I'd really like this chat app to work, so I can pop up the chat. Okay, and now this is John J. Dunphy, and he wrote in The Humanist in February 1983. He wrote something called A Religion for a New Age. And there it is. And there it's working. Remy Winter, Jesus is Lord. Yes, amen. Now, I'm not an evangelist, right? But I am Christian. Right? And, at the very least, I need to stand up and say what I believe in, but also stand against the things that I think are evil. And I think this is evil. Yeah. Villainous, once your superannuation has run out, here's a pill. Yeah, that is exactly what they're about. I mean, that is incredibly nasty. Right? So John J. Dunphy, he writes here, I'm convinced that the battle for humankind's future must be waged and won in the public school classroom by teachers who correctly perceive their role as the proselytizers of a new faith, a religion of humanity. Notice he's simply repeating ideas that go back to the 20s, go back to the 30s, go back to the 40s. So now he is simply singing the same song as the founders of religious humanism. This is their religion. So the teachers in the classroom must proselytize their new faith, right? That recognizes and respects the spark of what theologians call divinity in every human being. Of course, not religious divinity, not Christian divinity, right? These teachers must embody the same selfless dedication as the most rabid fundamentalist preachers, for they will be ministers of another sort, utilizing a classroom instead of a pulpit to convey humanist values in whatever subject they teach, regardless of the education level, preschool, daycare, or large state university. The classroom must and will become an arena of conflict between the old and the new, the rotting corpse of Christianity together with all its adjacent evils and misery. Now, again, he is now channeling Marx and Lenin here, because even Lenin spoke of that Christianity as a rotting corpse. All of them spoke of Christianity as being evil. This goes back to the early of the modern atheist founders, right? Feuerbach and all of these others that I've spoken of in other shows. So he's simply channeling all of these same people. Now, when atheists are channeling Marx, Lenin, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, when they say the very same things, are they the useful idiots of the communists, or are they themselves communists in disguise? Please answer me. If there's an atheist out there, please answer me. When you say exactly the same thing as the worst genocidal maniacs in history said, are you one of them? Right. So now, moving on. Right. And the new faith of humanism. So humanism is a new faith. Right. Resplendent in its promise of a world in which the never realized Christian ideal of love thy neighbor will finally be achieved. Well, so love thy neighbor, as we know from people like the French Voltaire, his motto was, love thy neighbor, but don't get caught. Right. Because he loved his neighbor a lot. And yeah. And then, of course, he also followed the rule of love thy brother's child and take her to bed and shag her rotten, because shagging your niece is what atheists do. Right? So, anywho, he then goes on to say, then perhaps we will be able to say with Tom Paine that the world is my country, all humankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion. According to what value of good? According to what definition of good? Because it makes you feel good, right? The pleasure principle. It will undoubtedly be a long, arduous struggle, replete with much sorrow and many tears. But humanism will emerge triumphant. It must if the family of humankind is to survive. So understand, guys, humanism is a proselytizing religion which believes that Christianity is evil. Certainly some of them do, but you see, this is not John Q. Anonymous Atheist. These are people with influence. These are people who have a voice. These are people who are influencing thousands of minds at university. These are people who are raising an entire generation or multiple generations of people that see you as evil, see your beliefs as evil, see you as something that has to be eliminated. Your beliefs have to be eliminated, and they are doing good. Understand, these are the people that are pushing abortion. These are people that are pushing eugenics. These are people that are pushing genocide. These are people that are everything we've discussed here. These people are pushing early suicide for people they don't like, and yet you are evil, right? And they are in a war. So atheists absolutely mustn't tell me that atheism is not a religion and humanism is not a religion. It is a religion, and it is a very, very actively proselytizing religion. Okay, so Gerald A. LaRue, we spoke of him a little earlier, right? Andy Asante, so greetings from Ghana. Good to see you. Thank you. Very, very nice. Why do you have a pic of an atheist on my desktop? I'm so sorry. A pic of an atheist? Yeah, I know. Why do I have a pic of an atheist on my desktop? You're right. Cute atheist. Anywho, okay. Right, back to this. Yeah, well, thank you, Deduza, for promoting the channel. Guys, if you like what I'm doing here, this is okay. So, I speak on YouTube about the things that make me angry. I speak about the things that upset me, about the things that bother me. So I understand that I don't necessarily script what I'm saying, but I believe that the facts can be found. I'm really good at finding information, and I spend hours putting together these presentations. I hope you like these. If you do, please tell your friends about them. Use this information, and also do, of course, hit the like on the video. Do subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel. I believe that I have factual, sound, verifiable information that goes against the propaganda, the lies, and the nonsense that is told by so many people who claim to be truthful, by so many people who claim to be honest, who are just liars and propagandists or deluded fools. Now, Gerald A. LaRue, he's a humanist. He says here this is an article taken from the American Humanist Association, whose motto is good without a God. So in this article, he speaks of humanist values must be taught. It sounds so polite, but this is exactly what we've been reading about these other guys who all tell us that the school system, the university system, must be how they indoctrinate young minds into believing these ideas and to rejecting Christian beliefs. Education calls for belief in what is to be shared, commitment to the ideals embraced by humanistic values, genocide, eugenics, abortion, suicide, and hope for the future. So many are disillusioned and without any belief in the possibility for change. So they're disillusioned, but what do humanists teach us? That it's an empty, meaningless world with an empty, meaningless existence, and as soon as you're dead, that's it. Your existence is forgotten, it's meaningless. So yeah, that's really inspiring. Well done. The educational program, which can be instituted as part of curricula in classes ranging from kindergarten to university and also through the public media. Oh my, they're proselytizing through the schools. This is illegal. They will shut down prayer or any Christian activity in schools, even though the schools were founded as a Christian institution, even though universities were founded as Christian institutions by Christians. They will shut down anything that they deem vaguely Christian, and they will push their religious ideas, their ugly, dirty, filthy humanist ideas. Wilderness says, good without a God. Note the A is to belittle Christ, to be equivalent to Thor. Interesting. Yeah, good without a God. Yeah, so good without God, not good without, not good without God, good without a God. Yeah. Interesting. So a subtle point there. The Panther says critical thinking is rapidly in decline. So rare these days. And yeah. So then this article is on AmericanHumanist.org, Humanism Today, Volume 12, LaRue. Okay, so you can find this quote here. It's like multiple. I just took just number 8 out of that. And he was American scholar of religion and a professor emeritus of gerontology. So he dealt with old people, right? He's a former ordained minister who became an agnostic, an archaeologist. He became a debunker of biblical stories and accounts of miracles, and he became a humanist. Just an agnostic. He just doesn't know. But of course, he will fully go out of his way to attack Christian beliefs, even though he just, he doesn't know. So from what I can tell, numbers of atheists who are militant atheists, aggressively militant atheists, will all claim to be agnostics to give themselves some level of cover, a level of insulation from social stigma, and to protect them from being accused of being anti-Christian or whatever the case might be. But I don't believe that they're agnostics. They just use that as cover. So it's like saying it's a religion of peace. It's just a lie. So Marion Grant Bruheim says it's dangerous for them. If I must swallow their pill next Thursday, I might decide to take half a dozen of them with me. Well, yeah, if it's so good for you, and it's good for them too, right? So hope that you will comment on Christian humanism also. But would that be Christian? I mean, anything like saying we are Unitarian Christians. We don't believe in the Trinity. Well, if you don't believe in the Trinity, you're not a Christian. You're a heretic. And that's that. There is orthodoxy, and either accept the orthodoxy or you don't. So, surely it is impossible to debunk the truth. Therefore, you cannot debunk the word of God, but you can certainly lie a whole day, and people do. I mean, this is why I'm so detailed in terms of showing my references, my citations, my sources. That's why I don't hide my sources. I just give them away because I want people to see, look, I'm just showing you what the guy says. I'm not making it up. Okay? Now, of course, hold on. The guy's, he's a scholar of religion, hates Christianity, but he's neutral. Don't forget, he's not a biased man in any way. He's not going to talk poop about Christianity in any way because he's a scholar, right? And yeah, he's a professor emeritus of gerontology. Loves old people. Loves him some old people. And he wrote a paper called Euthanasia. Euthanasia by Gerald A. LaRue. Let's have a look at just the opening section of this paper of his on euthanasia, which is a polite, sweet, scientific word. It's basically scientific suicide. And of course, if you don't like it, we'll suicide you. The thing the Nazis did to people they thought were, subhuman. Yeah, loves taking out old people. Yeah. Let's have a look. Humanism Today. Humanism and euthanasia. Ooh, I thought humanism was all about the love of people, right? But the value of people, about giving people meaning, Well, yeah, they were meaning to kill you. That's what they were. So euthanasia, Gerald A. LaRue. Thanks to the progress in modern medicine, we live longer and we are healthier. Diseases that once took the lives of infants and children, blah, 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 blah. Except, but now, maybe you're just a drag on society. Maybe it's time for you to just call it a day. Let us kill you. Just voluntarily go kill yourself. Thank you and have a nice day. Thanks, Gerald. All those wonderful words. And here you just want to kill old people. Maybe, I wonder if we should talk to him about that because he looks past his prime there. He looks older than 25. So if turning 70 becomes illegal, the 69-year-olds can do whatever the heck they want without suffering any consequences. Well, look, I mean, understand, this is the moral dilemma. This is the nonsense that these people are bringing in the world. A lovely man. What is wrong with those guys? Don't they think they're going to die? Of course not. Is this the WEF handbook? Of course. I mean, these people are all humanists, right? You think they're Catholics? Right? Of course not. And please, just so by the way, I'm not a Catholic. I've told people, look, I am very suspicious of Christians who won't tell me what Christian denomination they belong to. I think that's very suspicious. As you all know, I grew up in the Anglican Church. I haven't hidden that. I haven't made a secret of it. That said, I look at the Anglican Church and I go, I didn't sign up for some of the poop those guys are doing today. I absolutely, positively didn't sign up for the Anglican Church to turn into the LGBT church. I can do without all of that nonsense. Thank you very much. So, yeah. But if anybody's going to talk poop about the Catholic Church, I don't need that either. So I'm not a Catholic, but seriously, I'm not going to put up with any one of my subscribers talking poop about the Catholic Church. I will ban your ass. Let me be very clear about that. Okay? I will absolutely, positively ban your ass immediately. There's a couple who are walking a fine line as it is. So you probably know who you are. Non-denominational, that's also just a cop-out. It's like I make stuff up as I go along, you know. If you love people enough, euthanasia should be part of your equation. Yeah. So look, yeah, I love you. Let me kill you. Yeah. That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. It's like, yeah, you feel depressed. Here's a pill. Go kill yourself. Oh yeah, it's not because I want your, the inheritance to come to me early. Yeah. Great expectations. Yeah. No, I mean euthanasia, and don't forget, along with euthanasia, great expectations, humanism and atheism also give us eugenics, which, as you know, is amazing stuff, right? Hitler was all for that. Marx was all for that. You also get abortion, that's great stuff. And of course you get genocide. You have all of these wonderful things that atheism has brought us, So yeah, you don't just get euthanasia, And in fact, it's, you lost your leg. Oh, gee, you feel sad? Kill yourself. Yep, fantastic stuff. So pain is not pleasant, but our Lord went through more pain for us than we could ever imagine. Find a GavCon church. I have no idea what a GavCon church is. The big question with euthanasia becomes who decides on what medical grounds you should be put to death. Well, yeah, no, the scientist priests will do that. You see, you have scientist priests today. So probably more Baptist, honestly, but I don't trash other sects unless it's a doctrine debate. Even then, I don't just use scripture. Well, yeah, whatever. Anywho, okay, Gerald LaRue. So we're winding down here, guys. Gerald LaRue. Positive humanist. And this, of course, comes from the term positive here is used in the context of someone we've discussed in other shows called Auguste Comte, who was himself mentally ill. Okay? He was a signatory of the Humanist Manifesto too. He was 1989 Humanist of the Year and senior editor of the Humanist magazine Free Inquiry, the one we just looked at earlier. All right? LaRue was a professor of biblical history and archaeology at USC. He wrote an article in September 1984 of the Humanist, the official voice of the American Humanist Association, entitled The Way of Ethical Humanism, a religion to meet the psychological needs of our time. Fantastic. So a religion to meet the psychological needs of our time. LaRue's philosophy, in humanism, there is no supernaturalistic, paternalistic deity who has revealed his will for humans, right? And there's no punishment for disobedience. So there is, in other words, you can do what you like because there is no punishment. There is no reason, there's no moral restraint because you can do what you like. Anglican without the nonsense, Villainous says, mainly in Africa, Australia, and many others. So, the GAFCON church, the church of Joe Biden, yeah, for sure. Okay, so then LaRue's philosophy in humanism, there is no blah, 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 okay? So there's no hell, there's no heaven, there are no sacred scriptures and no salvation, except we've seen other humanists explicitly say that the humanist religion will bring you salvation. So now he says there's no salvation or deliverance from the reactions of a demanding God. There's no need to beg divine forgiveness for human error, but he says our religion is based on the best we know about our cosmos, our world, and ourselves. And then, of course, he was an early advocate of right to die euthanasia. Right to die soon becomes you need to die euthanasia. Okay, and then, so who's Giovanni Pico della Mirandola? I don't know who that is. Okay, so now I think I'll end here. The humanist deception. We've discussed this previously. Let me just see where this leads us. I skipped forward earlier. So, is humanism a religion? Does it matter? By Tom Flynn, also in Free Inquiry magazine. These guys are a goldmine of information. And remember, he does tell us that humanism is a religion. But, of course, he tells us here, there remain sound practical reasons not to call humanism a religion, because too many have called it a religion, but we now need to put out propaganda to change this impression, this accurate impression that humanism is a religion. We need to change it to call it just a philosophy, because if we call it a religion, it is advantageous for fundamentalists, and he calls them fundamentalists. I didn't call them fundamentalists, he calls humanists fundamentalists. To present humanism as a competing faith, Christian fundamentalists are presenting humanism as a competing faith, right? Though diametrically opposed, is nonetheless of the same order, because it's true. If humanism is perceived as a religion, thoughtful skeptics who reject religion may reject humanism too, depriving the movement of needed new viewpoints and enthusiasm. So, finally, a humanism that is religious is subject to the same constitutional curbs by which humanists themselves have striven to restrict the excesses of conventional religions. Are these excesses, or they've just tried to destroy conventional religion? So they don't want the law used against them. They want their cake and they want to eat it. They want to be a religion, yet they want not to be a religion. If humanism is to be a church, then it must be kept separate from the state. And this legal insight underlying the Hatch Amendment means that if we can persuade the public that humanism is just a philosophy, not a religion, we reduce the possibility that the new generation of conservative jurists can use against us the First Amendment protections on which we depend. So they want to be able to fire shots, and they want to be able to protect themselves by the same token. Global Anglican Future Conference is a fractured part of the Anglican Communion. Unclear how it stands with Canterbury. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no interest in forming part of some unknown church. I mean, so yeah, I grew up as an Anglican, but I mean, there are problems within. I mean, the church has problems, of course, but the church is very much under attack. It's founded by Michael Nazir Ali, former Bishop of Rochester. Nazir Ali, so that sounds very Muslim to me. And Akinola, Archbishop of Nigeria. Nazir Ali is now a Catholic priest within the ordinary. Okay, interesting. Yeah, the Italian humanists, just so by the way, Adele, the Italian humanists, there's some pretty shady stuff went on in Italy, the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s. And this had an impact on Martin Luther as well. If you look at Agricola and others, a lot of and there was another guy, I mentioned him earlier, but as well. But there's something funny that happened in Italy with these humanists. There's some real questionable stuff there. Some of it's tied to Martin Luther, and some of it's tied to changing Christianity to become a political religion like Islam, with social and political aims. So something happened there, and this drumbeat was taken up by Luther and others. So these guys were doing something shady as well. And I need to look into it in the future, but there's something wrong with these Italian humanists as well. And maybe I'll just end off on this one. Let me just see where we are in terms of the slides. Okay, two more. So this is Edwin Wilson. He died in 1993. He was 1979 Humanist of the Year and former editor of The Humanist. And he says that humanism in a naturalistic frame is validly a religion. So once more, we have, wow, Adele Cole, thank you very much. Please continue. Thank you. Oh, so, well, thank you. Please continue, sir. Okay. Thank you very, very much. So just the surname, there's a lot of Islam in Nigeria. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it's the north is mostly Islamic. Socialist humanism, Marxian humanism, secularism. Now you know how deceptive. Yeah, it's all humanism. Look, it's all humanism. You know, you can have cherry bubble gum, cola bubble gum. You know, it's all bubble gum, right? Basil Getz says Nazir Ali has extraordinary testimony of Christian faith under Satanic Islamic childhood in Pakistan. Okay, interesting. And yeah, so he was a principal. This guy, Edwin Wilson, was a principal organizer of the humanist movement from the 20s until the 60s. But he was also a Unitarian minister. Now, so many of these Unitarian ministers, going back through history, have come out as incredibly anti-Christian, have come out as very much against the Orthodox Christian faith, be it Protestant or Catholic. So that is really, really interesting that these Unitarians have always somehow had this painted a cross, or rather painted a bullseye on Christianity and gone after it. Okay. So he served as an editor and director of the American Humanist Association during its first years. Now, he actually was a senior member and leader of the American Humanist Association, and he believes that humanism is a religion. But he believed that the AHA had a different, more secular agenda than the Unitarian and other liberal churches. But yeah, well, over time, they've all become fairly secular themselves. And then finally, B.F. Skinner died 1990. I've covered him before in other shows. He was a prominent American behaviorist who was embraced by positivistically minded humanists. This was Comte, the socialist, right? The crazy socialist, the insane whack job socialist, right? And who was legitimately insane and founded his own religion and created the field of sociology, which is how they got humanism into university, through sociology, right? Unitarians were part of the force that misshaped the USA. They were also part of the force that introduced eugenics, that introduced genocidal slaughter that is so common to socialist countries. They also introduced heavy propaganda to destroy Christian beliefs and to, of course, implement the social and political changes, the economic changes that are part of socialism. They introduced, as I said, eugenics, genocide, abortion, and we've just discussed suicide. So, yeah. I mean, Unitarians are part of the force that formed the USA. Well, it takes all sorts, okay? So, yeah, these people are not necessarily good people either, right? So his understanding of human behavior as deterministic and mechanical encouraged him to reject free will and human dignity as human fictions. Interesting. Now, this is shades of Noah Yuval Harari. So because human nature is deterministic, it's just atoms banging into each other from time immemorial, and it's this unstoppable process, right? Which is also, quite oddly, again, a pagan idea that goes back to the pagan Greeks, to the Sophists and others, right? This is completely a pagan idea that human behavior is deterministic and mechanical. This encouraged him to reject free will. So you do not have free will. You're just a meat robot, and human dignity is a fiction. So again, where does atheism and humanism get the idea that they are the champions of human dignity when these people who are influential are telling us that these are fictions, that you don't even exist? The mind doesn't exist, and you've got someone, a humanist, telling you that the mind doesn't exist, and he's trying to convince you that your mind is not real, that you have no mind. There's only the brain, and you are a fiction, and this is a fiction arguing to a fiction that, what the heck? None of this makes any sense. Marion says, I'm the pastor of the North Outback Church. My congregation is one cat named Lodbrok, furry hair pants. Well, yeah, I mean, great. Good to meet you, and I hope your cat's very happy. I hope you feed it, you bless the food before you feed the cat. Okay, so yeah, so we've got human dignity is a fiction. Now, again, yeah, so this is humanists all over the place. What are we supposed to believe here, right? These people within the Church of Humanism, and of course, human dignity is a fiction. At least we know that within Christian doctrine, human dignity is enshrined forever. Human worth is enshrined forever. And yeah, so guys, I think I should end it here. I think I should end on this note because, Skinner. Let's have a look at Skinner. The last slide. Beyond freedom and dignity, B.F. Skinner. We can no longer afford freedom because that's an illusion, you see, because you need to be controlled because they know better than you. They can't give you freedom because you're going to do things that they don't like. Arnold Nathaniel, thank you very much. So he says we must design our culture to shape the behavior needed because he knows best. He's going to program you, right? Okay. And we can no longer afford freedom. And he also recommended the abolition of the family. You know who else recommended the abolition of the family? The founder of socialism, which goes back to France, and of course good old Marx, who recommended the abolition of the family. And science has enabled current moral and social degeneracy, which is scientific. So, okay, anyway, let me stop here. You know what? So let me stop here. So the family is bad. Atheist humanism comes from the observance that humanism in the mind is the most incredible thing. What? Great expectations. I have no idea whether you are... Seriously, you're not making any sense to me. Right? The human mind. No. Atheism believes that the mind does not exist. First of all, get your facts straight. According to atheists, the world is mechanical. The universe is mechanical. The universe is deterministic. It is merely atoms banging together, chemicals sloshing together. And the world is deterministic and mechanical. There is no mind. The mind is an illusion. There is only the brain. The self is an illusion, right? There is no self. So get that straight, okay? And of course, because everything is mechanical, because everything is deterministic, you have no free will. You didn't decide anything. The weird thing is that matter, because matter is all there is, matter has decided that 70, 80, 90% of the world is religious. So you guys are going against the, against matter. You guys are committing the great sin because you're creating the great moral transgression because you're trying to change something. The thing is, if people do not have free will, then if 80% of the world is religious, then you guys are the odd ones out. You are the defective parts. You need to shut up and allow people to be religious. So look, let me end there. Thank you all very much. I hope that was interesting and helpful. And hopefully we all learned something. So the ministry of the Bishop of Rome should be received as a gift of authority in the church. Okay. So guys, thank you very much. I will end it here. So I hope you all have a great night. I hope you guys will subscribe. I hope you will, like the video. And if you'd like to support the channel, please do so. It's much appreciated. Yeah. So atheists believe X is little. So, hey Lloyd, asserting that atheists believe X is a little dishonest and incredibly fallacious. Ultra, asserting that atheists don't believe X is, shall we say, dishonest and incredibly fallacious. No, that would be you. Atheism, we can study atheism and we can come up with certain concepts that are common to atheists, common to atheist thought and common to atheist doctrine and atheist academics throughout history. So that is a lie. Please lie to someone else. Go lie to someone else. I have covered that in deep detail, going through dozens, literally dozens of academic sources on atheism. Atheism preaches. So if you want to tell me that atheism preaches God, then go ahead, because it doesn't. We all know that. Atheism, I've never said anything about anyone's beliefs. Well, atheists, okay? Atheists, unfortunately, you've inherited a deterministic, mechanical worldview, right? Atheism has doctrine. These are atheists that I'm talking about, and they all happen to say the same things. Atheism is very tightly associated with socialism, right? The two are two sides of the same coin, right? Atheism is very tightly associated with the worst genocides in history, right? So don't tell me atheists are just a religion of peace who don't mean anything. Atheists, which ones? Atheists, people in your church. Maybe not you personally, but see, you speak only for yourself. Atheists can be tied to the worst genocides of the last 2,000 years, right? That is atheists. Now look, I have zero patience. You must understand, I have zero patience. I really am not deeply interested in your opinion, right? I'm presenting atheists. Now, the fact that you personally disagree just means that you personally either are ignorant, uninformed, or simply belligerent. Decide which one fits you best. But these are atheists. I've gone through numerous atheists, because atheists want to lie and say that Stalin wasn't an atheist, Marx wasn't, they were doing atheism wrong or whatever. No, they weren't atheists. They were atheists, okay? Atheism rejects the moral law of a God. Therefore, atheism, make up your own mind. Atheism goes back. You want to claim, atheist these are claiming they go back to ancient Greece, to the proud thinking of the ancient Greeks. These were pagans. These were vicious, nasty, ugly pagans who also had some pretty crappy ideas. So, yeah. And if you go back to the moral behavior of the Enlightenment thinkers, you'll find you're dealing with some human trash there too. Okay? So, yeah. Ray Johnson, I'm none of the above. I've never denied any of your findings. In fact, I've consistently agreed with you on all your streams. Yeah. So, yeah. But atheism is an ideology. Atheism is a philosophy. Atheism is a set of practical ideas, and it's been implemented a number of times. And it has come up with a bunch of trash at the end of it every time. Carol B says, yes, we learned about Skinner, behaviorism and conditioning. He thought people had no free will and needed to be trained to think and act. Yeah, that's your dystopia right there. So yeah, guys, this is the information that I have. I mean, by all means, have a look at the sources. I mean, I've given you the names of the people, the books. I've given you the quotes. I didn't make them up. This is purely what they're thinking. I cannot give you the entire book. I mean, this is text heavy enough as it is. Basilgate, thank you very much. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. I need to call it a night, but I shall see you again in a few nights. And yeah, I need to do something for my members. So guys, please, for my members, drop in the comments or send me an email or something. Do you want me to do a Zoom where we can meet and talk, or should I do a live stream? I think Zoom is just easier. You don't have to put in your camera if you don't want to, but let's talk so we can just, get together and we'll pick something. Next weekend, I'm probably not available. Next Sunday night, I may be, but I'm traveling. So, but guys, otherwise in the week, we can try something, but yeah, let me know. Anyway, thank you guys. Bazalgette built the London Suez in 1858. Awesome. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you very much, Lepanto, and take care, guys.